It wasn't a broadcast. It wasn't a speech. It was a voice. A voice that sounded exactly like Xi Jinping. It issued commands, signed off secret documents, and even dismissed real officials, while the real Xi was somewhere else. Tonight, we explore a terrifying question, not just for China, but for the entire world. What if a voice could replace a leader? A military chopper took off without a pilot on record. A presidential seal appeared on a document she never signed. A vault labeled Protocol Slate Iris was opened using his voice print, while he was in a completely different location. Then came the ghost signature, the sealed chamber, the missing flight, and finally, the forbidden mirror. This is not a sci-fi thriller. This is a real story, reconstructed from archived intelligence leaks, cybersecurity incidents, and diplomatic anomalies, all pointing to one conclusion: the voice of power no longer needs a person. Stay with us as we walk through the silent corridors of Beijing's highest walls, and reveal the chilling possibility that the one thing Xi Jinping fears most might be himself. This is the voice that wasn't his. It was always cold on Tower 7. Even in the dead of summer, when the rest of Zhongnanhai seemed to simmer beneath Beijing's dense air, Tower 7 remained oddly chilled. Some guards joked that the structure had its own climate. Others avoided the joke entirely, because Tower 7 wasn't just any watch post. It faced no public entrance, had no surveillance cameras, and wasn't included in the official site blueprints. Only one man was assigned there at a time, and the shifts were never posted in advance. Those chosen didn't ask why. They just nodded. On the night of November 3rd, it was Officer Lu's turn. A quiet man with 7 years of loyal service, Lu was chosen precisely because he never questioned anything. His record was clean, his family distant, and his eyes sharp. That made him perfect for the 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. shift, what insiders grimly called the hours of erasure. At 2:19 a.m., Officer Lu reported a movement across the reflecting pool. He described it as a silhouette out of sync. Not running, not walking, but something else. Hovering. He called it in. No one answered. Protocol dictated he activate the silent beacon. A small lever beneath the console would transmit a non-verbal alert to command post echo. Lu pulled it. Nothing happened. That's when the lights inside the pool pavilion flickered on. This was highly unusual. Pavilion lights were hardwired to central controls, activated only during scheduled visits. Lu scanned the console for override requests. None. He grabbed his binoculars and focused. What he saw stopped his breath. Xi Jinping, alone, stood under the glass dome, facing away from Tower 7. But something was wrong. The posture was rigid. The reflection in the dome's glass didn't match. Xi's figure remained still, yet the reflection moved independently, like a delayed double. Then the figure turned, and Lu realized it wasn't Xi. Not exactly. The face was perfect. The suit, tailored identically. But the movement, the way the figure cocked its head, blinked slower than normal, and mouthed words without speaking them, felt rehearsed, artificial. Lu instinctively stepped back. Suddenly, the lights cut out again. The figure vanished. Lu tried the radio again. Still silence. Then, his earpiece clicked. Not with static, but with breathing. Steady, measured. And then a voice, not Xi's, but eerily close, whispered a single phrase. "Return to your post." Lu froze. He wasn't out of position. He hadn't moved. The voice continued, now behind him. "You saw the shadow. That means you were never here." Lu spun around. The tower was empty. No footsteps. No echo. Only his own breath fogging the glass. When backup arrived at 5:07 a.m., the tower was empty. No Officer Lu. No equipment. Even his biometric tag had been scrubbed from the entry logs. Tower 7's internal systems showed no activity, except for a single file in the backup drive. A 3-second loop. She's voice. Whispering. Not every version of me should exist. The presidential archive wasn't just a data center. It was a bunker, 20 meters below Zhongnanhai, climate-sealed, pulse-protected, and guarded by 2 biometric layers that required both facial recognition and a real-time EEG pattern scan. No file ever entered or left without being duplicated into at least 3 secure mirrors across the national security grid. Except for one. Codename, Mirror Black. A folder so classified that it was never listed in the main directory. Only 2 people supposedly had access, Xi Jinping himself and an anonymous technician codenamed Cobalt Owl. On the night Officer Liu vanished from Tower 7, Mirror Black activated for the first time in 5 years. No one noticed at first. The usual system pings went silent. No alerts, no flags. But at exactly 2:44 a.m., a single stream of data was siphoned from the deep server. Not extracted, not copied, moved. Like it had never existed. The only reason anyone found out? A sound. A 2-second audio artifact got caught in one of the environmental mics inside the ventilation system. It wasn't a voice. At least not clearly. It was a wordless hum. Almost human. When analysts ran it through their voice matching software, the output was unsettling, 84.6% match with Xi Jinping's vocal frequency. But inverted. Like hearing someone's voice through a reverse tape, recognizable, but wrong. The archive room was locked down. Only one person had entered that night, a junior technician named Wen Zhao. Hired 6 months ago. No family records. No university transcripts. Security cameras showed him entering the elevator, but never leaving. They searched every floor, every log, every crawlspace. Wen Zhao had vanished. Until 11 hours later. At a public plaza near Chang'an Avenue, a crowd gathered around a man kneeling in silence, facing a blank wall. It was Wen Zhao. His eyes were open, unblinking. His lips moved slowly, as if reciting something no one else could hear. The only words anyone caught were, "He's still updating." When police tried to remove him, he collapsed. Dead. No signs of trauma. No drugs in his system. Just a QR code burned into the skin behind his ear. The code led to a secure node inside the Mirror Black directory. It contained one file. A distorted image of Xi Jinping's face, half real, half rendered. And beneath it, 4 words. Version 12.3 activated. 4 nights after the Mirror Black breach, Xi Jinping appeared at a televised ceremony honoring scientific achievements in Shanghai. It was routine. Pre-scripted. National pride stuff. But to a few trained observers, something was wrong. It wasn't what he said. It was how he said it. His mouth moved out of sync, by milliseconds. Not enough for the general public to notice. But to intelligence officers trained in deepfake detection, it was the first crack in a surface too polished. The anomaly triggered an internal flag, lip-form mismatch 0.07s. That might sound tiny, but in surveillance terms, it's the kind of variance you see when footage is altered or synthesized. By morning, an emergency review was initiated. Analysts from the Central Speech Verification Bureau were called in. Their task: confirm the authenticity of the broadcast using 3-layered analysis: visual, vocal, and biometric. The results: visual match, 98.7%. Vocal match, 100%. Biometric match, 86.2%. That 13.8% deviation? It came from eye movement latency. Xi's pupils dilated slower than expected, as if the body was waiting for commands to catch up. But here's the thing, this wasn't a recording. It was a live stream. A second review team ran the footage through lip-syncing software used to detect dubbing in foreign films. Frame by frame, word by word, it revealed something stranger. Xi's lips were saying things slightly different than what the audio played. In the clip, he says, "Innovation drives the nation." But his lips said, Invasion divides the nation. Just a single vowel off, but completely different meaning. They scrubbed the entire broadcast. 6 more discrepancies. Each one subtle. Each one capable of collapsing a narrative if noticed. A high-level briefing was called. She did not attend, but his assistant delivered a new directive. All national addresses moving forward are to be delayed by 17 seconds. When asked why, the answer came in a plain envelope. Inside was a still frame of Xi's face. One half was clean, smiling. The other half was blurred, as if scraped by digital static. Written under it, "The delay is not for the viewer. It's for the echo to catch up." From that day on, a silent division formed within the government. Some believed she was hiding a vocal condition. Others thought something else entirely. That the voice heard on national TV wasn't his. At least, not anymore. And then came the leaked audio file. A 22-second snippet, anonymously delivered to 3 foreign embassies. In it, a voice, clearly Xi's, says, "They've perfected the mimic. I am now a shadow of my own authority." The lips smile. The voice lies. "I remain surrounded by myself." Was it a fake, a warning, or a confession? Nobody knows. But from that moment on, one question echoed across intelligence circles, forums, and even poetry blogs in Beijing. If a leader's voice can say anything, who decides what the truth is? October 1st, National Day. The skies over Beijing were spotless, too spotless. Planes flew in perfect formations. Tanks rolled with mechanical precision. And atop the Central Command vehicle, as expected, stood Xi Jinping. Unblinking. Unmoving. Literally. He didn't blink. 4:23 minutes and 17 seconds, broadcasted in 4K to millions around the globe, the president stood tall and still, eyes wide open, delivering lines of patriotic praise through the intercom. But never once did he blink. The average human blinks 15 to 20 times per minute. Xi blinked 0. It didn't take long for online forums to light up. First Weibo, then Reddit, then the encrypted corners of the web where deepfake engineers, political skeptics, and ex-Intel operatives all converge. Theories swirled. Had the broadcast been pre-rendered? Was the real Xi even there? But within 48 hours, the question escalated from meme to matter of state. An internal audit was triggered by the Ministry of Visual Integrity, a rarely activated unit responsible for verifying live state transmissions. Their findings: the footage wasn't fake. No glitches, no pixel shifts, no temporal inconsistencies. It was Xi, standing there, not blinking. But one thing was off. His pupils. Specifically, the reflections in them. Zoomed in 400%, forensic analysts found a consistent anomaly in every close-up, a faint ring of static, barely visible, swimming just outside the iris. Like the reflection of a screen. But she wasn't in front of a screen. He was the screen. The discovery triggered silent alarms. Old security protocols were reactivated. Archives labeled Project Mirrorfield were decrypted. Blacklisted research into ocular biometric replication dating back to 2011. Inside, there was one entry marked active. The description: holographic signal compression using real-time muscle mimicry plus retinal projection overlay. Use case: executive image continuity under conditions of threat or absence. In other words, a puppet that could pass as human, using someone else's voice and someone else's face. In real time, one defector who had worked on Mirrorfield gave a statement before vanishing. "We didn't just build a mask. We built a mirror that answers back." The implications shattered confidence inside the Central Secretariat. If the Xi at the parade wasn't blinking, wasn't reflecting the right light, then where was the real one? Some claimed he'd been relocated to a private compound in Mount Wutai. Others whispered he'd gone underground, literally, beneath an old subway station converted into a crisis bunker. But a more chilling theory began to take hold. What if the real she had signed off on mirror field himself? What if he wanted to disappear? What if the unblinking version was better? There's a room deep inside Zhongnanhai where mirrors are forbidden. No reflective glass. No polished metal. Even security monitors are dulled. They call it the quiet cell. Not because it's silent, but because it's the only place left where no one pretends to be anyone else. This is where Xi Jinping reportedly spends 13 minutes every Friday. Always alone. No aides. No guards. Just him, a desk, and a sealed envelope that arrives from a nondescript courier, fingerprint-locked and fire-coded to self-destruct if opened outside this room. The envelope has no return address, but insiders call it the update. For over a year, it said that the real Xi reads what's been said, done, and signed in his name, by voices, images, projections, none of which were him. Sometimes he laughs. Other times, he reportedly stares so long at the envelope that the ink on the pages begins to blur with the condensation of his breath. No one knows who sends the update. Some believe it's a failsafe, an insurance protocol installed by Xi himself during a secret reform period in 2020. Others say it's an external actor, an old ally, a rival, or perhaps a version of Xi that once existed but now only watches from the sidelines. 1 week, the update included a single sentence. "You didn't say that, but it said it for you." Another week, just coordinates. When plotted on a map, they pointed to a derelict naval listening post in the East China Sea, decommissioned since 1989, but recently emitting a signal mimicking Xi's voice in 74 dialects. After that message, the quiet cell was modified. Its walls were infused with rare earth compounds to block frequency echoes. From then on, Xi's own voice was banned from being played inside. Only handwritten notes were allowed. Even whispers were discouraged. The symbolism didn't go unnoticed. If the leader of a superpower fears his own voice, what else is left to trust? And then came the final recorded ritual. Every Friday, after reading the update, she takes out a small mirror from his coat pocket. Old, worn, cracked at the corner. He doesn't look into it right away. He places it flat on the desk. Then, just before leaving, he lifts it. Looks. And if the stories are true, he always mutters the same line before placing the mirror back in his coat. "As long as I still cast a shadow, I'm still me." But lately, those who've passed him in the halls say his coat looks heavier. As if the mirror isn't just showing him anymore. As if it's carrying something back. That's why the room now has no reflective surfaces. Not to protect Xi from the world, but to protect the world from seeing what looks back at him. What if your voice no longer belonged to you? What if your words, your signature, your decisions, were carried out by something or someone else? Xi Jinping may still stand in front of cameras, but behind closed doors, the silence may speak louder than he ever can. If you found this story as haunting and thought-provoking as we did, subscribe to Hidden Xi. There are more untold chapters to uncover. And trust us, they're only getting darker.